It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
I'm Nick Miles. Welcome to TestMiles Studio. We are live from downtown Portland. It's time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive experience. This is America's automotive radio show. TestMiles, locally created, nationally celebrated. This morning's team includes misfits, rapscallions, and ne'er-do-wells. Jenya, the intern, Sean Walker. Old man Brad was lost to church this week. He had to go to church with the family. But Oli, the Viking Volvo seller, is here. All right, let's talk about some of the cars that we've been driving this week. We've had a chance to test drive a number of vehicles for your entertainment pleasure and hopefully information pleasure as well. I've been in the Volvo V60 wagon. This is a 5-door station wagon in America, a 5-door estate car if you're from Europe. Efficient, energetic. It has the Drive E system in it. It's well balanced. It has great ride and handling. Comfortable. If I could take this interior and plant it in many other cars in America, I would do that. And of course, it has Volvo safety. The models that it's considered to be going up against include very few. Its competition, there are not that many wagons. BMW's 3 Series, a wagon, and a few others. The bad parts about this car, I would say it's considerably less efficient than the T5 Drive E, which is the non-wagon version as well. Its ride and handling is not quite as good as some of the American sports sedans. So let's talk about what's under the hood. A 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 2.5-liter turbocharged 5-cylinder engine, or a 3-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. One of the things I love that Volvo are doing is now putting superchargers and turbochargers on the same vehicle, and that will hopefully be on most of their vehicles in the future. So you can get about 240 to 325 horsepower. The transmission in this vehicle is a 6-speed automatic, quite efficient, I would say, and an 8-speed, also an 8-speed auto as well. All-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, 29 miles a gallon is the average. You can get 25 city, 37 highway. Great highway miles a gallon, by the way. And if you change to the bigger engines, it can drop down as much as 20 to 22 miles a gallon. $35,950 is the average starting price for this vehicle. Also been driving the Hyundai Santa Fe this week. You know, Hyundai have done such an amazing job with this vehicle. I think they redefined the whole segment. The biggest selling vehicle in the segment is the Ford Edge. The Ford Edge and the Nissan Murano started this segment off, but Hyundai have definitely come in. Content-wise, the Hyundai Santa Fe and the Kia Sorento are pretty impossible to beat. Strong V6 engine, a lengthy warranty, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, generous standard features for the money, classy interior, and easy-to-use electronic interface. Less cargo capacity than some of its competitors, no rear seat entertainment option, and a V6 engine, about 290 horsepower, is exactly the same as the Sorento. 6-speed auto, all-wheel, front-wheel drive, 21 miles a gallon is the average. I'd like to see that a little higher. And Ford Explorer, Nissan Pathfinder, Traverse, Durango, Highlander, Pilot, and Outlander are its main competition. It has the Sports and the GLS Limited version. And lots of tech on the inside, including Hyundai's BlueLink. You can run these vehicles in the future from your smartwatch. About $30,150 starting price.
How much did you say it was?
$30,150 starting price.
I'm driving an Easter egg today because of Easter. No, I'm driving a 2015 Honda Fit EXL, and the only reason I'm calling it an Easter egg is because of the color. It's this weird yellow greenish color.
I have to tell you before we go any further that this is the worst color I've ever seen on a car.
I agree with you.
It makes me feel ill.
Yeah, it's kind of a...
It looks like mustard with a little bit of blood thrown in.
Yeah, it does. It's not a nice color, but I've actually seen a bunch driving this car. I've seen other Honda Fits with the same color. And it's funny because they wave at you, and it's like, are you waving because I'm colorblind like you? But it's called Mystic Pearl Yellow, and it's, like we said, it's a weird color.
It looks like Dirty didn't wash something that was yellow.
It sounds magical.
It's Easter magical.
Other than the color, I mean, I love the car. It's a 5-seater compact. I mean, the safety in this little car is just unbelievable. It has dual stage airbags that kind of release in different stages compare depending on how you get hit. So it won't deploy all the way unless, like, if you get in a severe accident where it needs to explode more for you, more safety, it will, which is cool. It has their new ACE body structure, which takes all the impact of a crash and makes it less on you. They also have the Honda Lane Watch, which basically you turn on your right turn signal, and there's a camera that shows everything on the right side of the car, which this car is really tiny, so I don't know why it needs it, but it's still a nice feature.
You know, it probably brings insurance costs down, premiums for the vehicle, just because it has so many safety features.
Oh, I know, and it's like, that's the one thing, and I know, like, especially older people have a fear of getting into littler cars because they don't feel it's safe, but this car has so many safety features. I feel safe in it. It's a great little car. It's fun to drive around in town and get you into any parking space.
Did you mention the magic seats?
I did not mention the magic seats yet, but basically you could fold the seats down and it's like a minivan. I mean, there's so much space. You can actually get bikes in there standing upwards, and that's impressive because some people do like to buy this car and go up to the mountains to go bike riding.
Yeah, multiple different ways to deploy the seats to give you different kinds of space, either in height or in length.
Yeah. It has a 1.5-liter four-cylinder engine, 135 horsepower, CVT transmission. The fuel economy is not that great. You get basically a combined 35 miles a gallon, and something this small, I figured it should be in the at least to low 40s. But still, 35 is not that bad.
The amount of power that it has and the amount you can haul, the size of it, I don't know. I think 35 is about right.
I feel like it should get a little bit more, but it's still fine. It compares, or it goes up against the Yaris, Accent, Kia Rio, Ford Fiesta, and Chevy Spark. Comes in 3 trim levels with the LX, EX, and EXL. Base price, or the price I'm driving for the EXL is $21,590. And my 2 ups and 1 down is basically the safety in the car. There's one feature. There's a cup holder on the left side of the dash that actually fits my phone. And it's the perfect place. It actually holds my phone perfectly. I have a Samsung S5 and my phone fits and I could read everything on the dash. Love it. More cars. I know it's a cup holder, but it fits my phone. So that's what I like it for. And the only thing I don't like about the car is that the gas cap release button on it is way under the dash instead of on the floor or on the button.
You don't have to get to it very often, though.
Well, yeah, but still, when you have to get there, you have to reach for it. So that's my only down for the car.
Oh, that's impressive. So you like the cup holders, but not the gas button. That's a summary of Sean's review of the car.
Loves the color. Loves the color.
I don't like the color, but I mean, Honda has this blue that they put on all their cars, and I think every car should be like it. It's like one of the best blue colors I've ever seen.
I like to call it the Microsoft blue because it's kind of the same as the Microsoft background of their screens.
It's a sexy blue, and I really enjoy the blue on the cars.
Do you feel sexy in that dirty pearl yellow?
I don't feel sexy.
No, it doesn't. It's violently abusive to my eyes, and I'm very sad that color was invented by someone. All right, what's coming up on TestMiles this morning? Got loads of stuff in the can for you. We are going to have a couple of special guests in the studio. Bank Halverson's going to be here from Car Connection to talk much about the New York Auto Show. We were there the last week and looked at all the new cars that were revealed. Plus, she's a legend. She's a race car driver, and she's going to be live in studio. Cindy Lux on TestMiles this morning. And you may recognize this sound. She can tell us all about it. Oh, that's a beautiful sound. Cindy drives one of those now and again. All right, coming up on TestMiles, I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Welcome back to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL, Portland's automotive radio show, live from our studios in downtown Portland. For all the latest automotive news, follow us on Twitter at TestMiles.
Here's a fun fact you can press your friends with. The Aston Martin 177 is one of the fastest cars under the brand, with a top speed of reaching a magnificent 220 miles per hour.
I have only been 204 miles an hour, and that scared me immensely. So 220, I would probably have to bring my own diapers. All right, Bank Halverson is one of the deputy editor. He is the deputy editor of Car Connection, Green Car Reports, and Motor Authority. Both Bank and I spent the better part of last week at the New York International Auto Show. New York, the final show of the season. We rest now until the fall. Bank is joining us in studio to talk about some of the cars shown. Bank, your favorite car of the show?
Good morning. Probably, can you all hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Probably, I was looking back at the list right now, and I think that one of the most significant cars of the show is the Honda Civic Concept. That was a complete surprise.
Right.
And we, the Civic has been, we were just discussing this a little bit. The Civic has been homely and kind of, it hasn't been kept up.
Is that a nice way of saying boring?
Yeah. Honda has been going for sales and volume in the Civic for quite a number of years, and this just finally injects some excitement back into the Civic line.
I think we kind of push the Civic aside right now because there's been so many different iterations of the Civic. It seems like every New York Auto Show, there's a new Civic. And the changes have been so mild, and sometimes I have to see them side by side to recognize them. And then here comes this bright green Civic Concept with all of this cladding, and I'm like, whoa, it just knocked everybody for six.
Yeah, well, the last Civic, they were facing complaints that it wasn't refined enough and it wasn't, comfortable enough. And so they really, addressed those issues. Unfortunately, the outgoing generation of the Civic has just been lacking a little bit of soul, you might say.
Yeah, they were number one in their segment and unfortunately lost that ground to Corolla. And I don't think the Corolla was significantly more impressive than the Civic. I think it was just fresher and newer, and Corolla, it took lots of steps towards changing the Toyota head to changing the vehicle, whereas Honda had been kind of in the same groove. So definitely impressive. I will have to tell you, and I want to see what your opinion is of this, because I seem to get lots of arguments. My most impressive car of the show that blew me away, that I wasn't expecting, and being a large sedan lover, was the Continental. Yeah. I just looked at that car and went, thank goodness, because I want Lincolns to succeed so much, and they have been mediocre at best. And this was exactly what they needed.
And yeah, that was one of my favorites as it was presented as well. But we have to be really cautious there, because the Continental was a concept car. The Civic is a concept car officially. It may not look quite as distinctive when it's produced. The Continental was a concept car, and I highly suspect that the door handles will be moved back to their normal place, and
right.
some of those brilliant details will be smoothed over. So crossing my fingers, if they can bring out a production car that looks that good, there may be hope for Lincoln yet.
Yeah, I mean, there are things on that car that can't make production, like the rear lights. Then clearly they don't fall within transportation guidelines, because they look like they're metal until they're lit up, and then they look like lights.
But so we've been discussing concept cars. Probably to get back to
reality,
to your question, Nick, if I wanted to look at what car has the most impact from New York, or what car is surprisingly revolutionary, it would probably be the Lexus RX. And out of nowhere, I guess I'd say, the Lexus RX just jumps into this completely new design territory. Lexus surprised us with the edgier look of the NX 2 years ago,
right?
And now they're taking the look of the RX, which is their midsize crossover.
Competes with things like the Murano, the Edge, that sort of size, right?
Yeah, very kind of white. It has a reputation for being a strong seller, kind of white bread luxury crossover that a realtor would be happy to drive,
right.
Or someone who doesn't want to be seen as overly edgy. And now suddenly the RX is a very edgy looking vehicle. You get that sharp front end and some of the very involved design features inside, and the so-called false C-pillar.
Yeah.
It looks like the back pillar of the vehicle gets kind of interrupted, and and the side sheet metal is just really...
Side sheet metal is what I noticed. It's one of those designs I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet. Like it needs to mature in my brain, because it again hit me from out of the park, where I'm not sure what this is. A little bit like the Murano the first time I saw it. It's like so different in a sense too. A huge number of mid-size sedans shown at the show. The new Malibu, the Kia Optima, the Maxima. Everybody's redesigning that mid-size sedan, which has been the bread and butter for a lot of car companies. But the interesting thing for me is the difference in what's under the hood. So Chevy talking about getting 47 miles a gallon in their hybrid version. Kia talking about getting 47 miles a gallon in their hybrid version. And in the gas version of the Malibu, saying it's going to get 37 with their new turbo 1.5 6-liter engine. But then I look at the Maxima, which I think is an amazing design, but they're saying 30 miles a gallon. And I'm thinking that's a big difference when you're talking about the car that's competing in the same territory.
Yeah. And the Maxima, the Maxima is a different thing. Again, they're pitching that car in a kind of interesting area of the market. Again, as the four-door sports car. I'm a little bit skeptical, as any kind of car enthusiast should be, that once again, the Maxima is a front-wheel drive car. It can only be had with a CVT.
Right.
So how close to a four-door sports car can you get with that configuration? Fortunately, the design, it is a killer design. It's a beautiful design. Flowing side sheet metal. Nakamura, Nissan's design chief, just has done a great job overseeing that V-motion look.
I agree, absolutely.
That's in that car and the new Murano. So it is a beautiful design, inside and out. Let's hope that they come through and that's
make it as drivable as it looks.
Exactly, that it's as exciting to drive as it teases from the outside.
In the few minutes we have left, let's finally talk about one of the cars which we know has been coming for a long time, and everybody's been anticipating it. We didn't know it was going to have a drift mode button in it, but that's the new Focus RS from Ford.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very minor model as far as Ford's sales go, but it's a really important what we call a halo car. It just builds the brand. It shows that Ford's in it for real, that they're committed to not just driving enthusiasts, but to the motorsports crowd. And it'll be a serious rival to the Subaru STI, the Volkswagen Golf R. I look forward to making that comparison.
Excellent. Bank, thank you so much for being here this morning on Test Miles. Of course, you can see all Bank's work at the Car Connection and at Motor Authority and at Green Car Reports. You're a great guy, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you much.
All right, this is Test Miles on FM News 101, KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning, this is America's Car Radio Show. We would like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, go to our Facebook page at TestMiles ENT.
Here's a fun fact you can impress your friends with. Despite popular opinion in car guy folklore, the very first Viper wasn't red. It was white, which is one of America's traditional racing colors.
I didn't know that. Now I have a fun fact to arm myself when I go into the bar this afternoon. Our guest is a professional race car driver, Cindy Lux. Cindy is in the middle of a great career, including time spent with Pirelli World Challenge, and she was the first champion in the IMSA Women's Global GT Series. She's been a factory driver for Dodge and Mopar as well. In all, Cindy has won 12 championships, over 80 race wins, including twice at the SCCA's famous June Sprints. She's has over 150 podium finishes, including second place at the SCCA National Championship and 52 pole positions in her career. She's now the director of the Ford Racing School, a friend of everybody's who loves fast cars. And finally, after a year and a half on the air, we get Cindy in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Everyone is so excited. I have had tweets and emails from the entire Fiat Chrysler Automobile Group saying they are so excited you're on, and the Ford Racing guys are really excited. So we are honored that you're here, and we're honored the fact that you call Portland home. You still live here, right?
Oh, absolutely. I would never leave this place.
I agree with you. I would never leave Portland. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. What's next for you in racing?
Well, what's next actually is probably within the next 24 hours, I'm going to pack my bags and head down to Homestead, Florida. Probably the furthest racetrack one could get from Portland, Oregon. I got to go down there and actually make a debut in the Trans Am Series with a couple of Vipers down there.
And when does the race take place?
The race actually takes place a week from today.
All right.
Yeah.
So you need a couple days to climatize. Does that make a big difference when you go to a track where it's probably 90 degrees and a little bit moist?
Humid. Yeah, a little bit humid. You know, being from the Northwest, I don't really do well in the humidity, but yeah, we'll go down there. I leave, like I said, tomorrow. I'm going to go down there and do a couple speaking engagements down a couple schools I'm going to go to, and we hit the track on Thursday, and then practice qualifying, and then the race is on Sunday.
How do you feel about your chances?
You know, it's a new series, and the coolest part actually, which I just got notified yesterday, which I think is fantastic, and some folks kind of think it's otherwise, but because I've never ran in that series or won in that series, I get to bear the rookie stripes on my car, so it's fantastic. I think it's awesome. So yeah, so I'm a rookie going to this deal, and the TV or the races will be aired on CBS Sports throughout the year. So I'm just looking forward to new venue, new cars to us, because we had to kind of modify them a fair amount to meet the rule set and stuff like that. Mopar is kind of getting more interested in back in the per se road racing side of stuff, so which is fantastic. And so I'm just honored to kind of take off my dress shoes for business and put back on my racing shoes and go out there and kind of do what I love to do.
We love you business-wise, but we love you even more race-wise when you have those race shoes on.
Yeah, me too.
Let's talk a little bit about you're somewhat of a handy gal too. You're not just racing these cars; you're kind of putting them together, and you're consulting with people about how their sports cars and how their fast cars should function, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little kind of one of those people. I get a little bit of information and I turn dangerous, to certain regards. But no, it's I do kind of dabble a little bit of everything, from car setup to coaching to the business side, and just anything with cars. I don't care if it's car debuts to tire testing to cars and coffee to whatever. Anything that has 2 or 4 wheels, I'm just fascinated. And I want to learn more. And the more you're around the automotive world, which everybody is probably listening to the show appreciates, it's just an art and it's a passion that we all have. It's cool.
I would love it at some point, and I don't even know where we do this unless we have a private tracker, because I don't particularly want to go rent PIR for the day, but I'd love to do a TV piece with you where you could show us some driving tips about how to test drive cars better.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, you talking more of the race type or the street type?
Well, we take street cars and, put them through their paces. I have a dream of I'd like to take a $250,000 luxury car and drift it. And I'm actually really close to getting somebody to agree to let me do that.
That is not difficult to do, and these days anymore, it can probably happen very quickly.
I think we might have a project under our hands.
I think so.
So going into these races, what about the rest of the year? Is it just a series for you now?
It is. We're only running a partial series just because all the races are on the East Coast. Again, living in Portland is probably not the smartest thing. If I was back in my younger days, I should have moved out of here. But again, this is home. So we'll be living out on the East Coast. We got a couple shops back there we're going to make home. But in between time, I still spend a lot of my time in Salt Lake City, running the racing school out there with Miller Motorsports Park, the director of the program. And so we've had a very, very busy, probably 6 months. We've debuted and actually changed over to all the new 2015 Mustangs. We just upgraded a bunch of our Boss upgrades, World Challenge cars. So we've basically built 45 new vehicles for our fleet, plus we have all our Raptors and everything else. So right now we have over 100 and some school vehicles out there to go play with, and so the keyword's play.
The best thing about that Ford racing program out there is it's not just track, right?
That is correct. I mean, it's there's track, there's go-karts, there's motorcycles, there's off-road. We do a lot of military stuff out there because it's just desolate, kind of where we're at. It's kind of a cool, big, different toy box with, in your sandbox type of a thing. So it's growing. It's definitely growing, and we're expanding at such a rate too. So it's a cool place to kind of hang your hat a little bit, but it's always nice to come back home.
Our guest this morning on Test Miles is Cindy Lux, world-famous driver. She's in our studio and talking about her career. Are you passing on your knowledge to the next generation? Are you teaching people how to do what you did?
Yeah, I am. And to me right now, that's more rewarding. There's actually a young racer up in Seattle area that's basically, I think, about 8 or 9 years old. I've worked with him for about 3 years. I enjoy the younger generation a little bit. I do have one gentleman I've actually been working with here locally for the past 5 years, and just I don't really want to teach somebody for 1 day, 2 days, or whatever. I try to take them on as a project, and because it's so much more than just mashing on the gas, and so it's more the mental aspect. It's being at the right place at the right time, and it's the synergy. It's doing what's right for the sport. So I'm having a ball with it, and I love everything about teaching the aspect, but more importantly, you just got to surround yourself with a lot smarter people than I am, and I've been very fortunate with that over the years.
Yeah, we've had Kyle Keenan in the studio here. Definitely a gem. The Northwest seems to put out some really quality race people, don't they? And there's not a lot of middle pack. It's either they're brilliant or they're not that interested, right?
Yeah, and I think I think what it does, the location kind of separates it. If you're going to make the effort to go out and do it, you better make sure you got your ducks in a row and train hard to get the right equipment. And Kyle has done a fantastic job. I mean, there's a guy right there that has passion, drive, and looking for the financial help and stuff like that. But Kyle is young enough to where he will make a name for himself for sure once he gets someone to kind of support him more financially, which is we're all looking for.
And one of my favorite parts about him is the fact that not only is he great at what he does, but he's like a friend of mine now. I mean, he's such a nice person.
He is.
He's sending me messages 2 or 3 times a week on Facebook. He's like a genuinely good guy. And that makes such a difference because there's nothing like grumpy people who are successful. It just makes us all miserable, right?
You're exactly right. And in this industry, the automotive world is very small. And you got to really be careful. And you got to just be yourself and just be true and just be nice. That's all it is. It's not rocket sports stuff we're doing. We're in the entertainment business, basically. We train people for driving race cars, and I drive race cars, some pretty cool stuff coming out of Detroit. I'm just honored. Every time I get into it, I'm just honored to do it.
I think one of the things I've been the most impressed with you, and this is like Kiss Cindy Luck's time right here, is that you were on the Dodge Challenger program, which happened to be here in Portland, and your level of attention. The only analogy I can give you is it's like having loaded firearms. You are so on it all the time. You can see every part of the track. You can have a conversation with somebody, but see something out of your peripheral vision that you don't like and correct. Do you ever get to down your brain for a few minutes? Because it seems like constantly when I'm with you in a race environment, your head is moving at a million times ahead of everybody else's. It's
tough, but you kind of get used to it. Like on those product launches or manufacturer programs or tire, you can almost read the person, the way they walk up, the way they breathe, their eye movements, what they're saying inside the race car. You know what you got in your hands before that car's even started. And you got to be 3 steps ahead on the deal. So it just comes from experience, and asking the right questions. But a lot of times in anything in life, you learn a lot more if you just shut up and watch. And that's kind of what I try to do with that deal.
Do you get the opportunity to do things like burnouts in the new Hellcat, it's my favorite keychain, by the way. I keep playing it over and over again. The worst thing about this keychain, it's the sound of the Hellcat, is it goes off 24/7 in my pocket. So I'll be standing in a line at a coffee shop.
And that's a bad thing?
Yeah.
You saying that's a bad thing?
It's a bad thing when people hear it and know what it is, because then you're in a 25-minute conversation.
That's awesome. That was a really cool launch here in Portland, and I was really impressed the fact that basically Dodge decided to come out west to do it on the West Coast. We don't get very many major launches like that here in the Northwest. And I just think they did a fantastic job. So that was one car that I kind of kept saying every morning before everybody got out there, like, I need to go put some time on these tires or brake. I got to go.
If I'm gonna be the track director, I need to know how it's going to handle on the track. Banked.
Yeah, I was going to say with the Hellcat, you have to be humble. You have to be approach that vehicle with some
reverence, right?
With some reverence. And I really appreciate, I saw you at PIR approach, let me just say that among those of us who write about cars, there are definitely two types of people. One of those types has way too much confidence in their track driving ability and way more confidence than ability. And I saw you deal with some of those guys, in a very kind of subtle, modest way.
You try to, and I appreciate that. You try to, because the power of the pen later can come back to really haunt you too if you don't use a lot of respect. But otherwise, if you don't, they're just going to hurt themselves. And so it can be challenging, especially on press type events. So I've been on the good side, and I've also been on the bad side.
Everybody thinks they're a race car driver, don't they? I think one of my greatest things in life is I'm scared to death of the race car track, and so that's probably the way it should remain. And make sure that I'm always scared to death, so I do the right thing. All right, Cindy Lux is our guest. Bank Halverson's here from High Gear Media. We have the whole team. We're going to come back and talk about some of the biggest news stories of the week. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
We'd like to keep you informed all week long, so please go to our Twitter account. It's TestMiles, or the website, TestMiles.com.
Here's a fun fact to impress your friends. The Fisker Karma has more torque than a Bugatti Veyron and gets 10 times better fuel mileage.
And that's because Fisker uses almost no fuel whatsoever when it goes. But there you go. Unfortunately, Fisker not really in business anymore, and Bugatti still are, so we'll just have to burn a little extra gas. With Test Miles, it's time to talk about some of the top news stories that we have seen from around the news. Still in the studio with us, Bank Halverson and Cindy Lux. One of the big stories that, of course, is very popular is all the Top Gear stuff, what's going on with Jeremy Clarkson leaving the show. So here are the headlines, and I've muddled them all together so we know what's going on. Lots of Top Gear stories in the news. Clarkson's agreed to keep quiet about his firing. He's not going to speak about it. The BBC have taken all the Top Gear hosts off of their web banners. So Top Gear still exists, but the hosts' pictures have gone, which is kind of interesting. They're also now saying they're confident they will find a replacement for Clarkson, and they have enough footage for 2 more shows, which is interesting. It is consuming most of the entertainment / car industry news, but I will have to tell you that I think it's interesting that Clarkson, the decision to let him go was probably the right one. They didn't have much choice. Jenny, you had a question.
Well, I have an add-on to that. Their Top Gear Live, they're continuing it, but they're not going to call it Top Gear Live. They're calling it Clarkson, Hammond, and May Live.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure where the deal goes for them, but I will say the Hammond and May interviews that I've seen are priceless. Absolutely brilliant. These guys are a class act, all of them. And I'm sorry to see him go, but I don't think he left them any space. He didn't leave the BBC any space to do anything. The other thing I wanted to mention with you guys, and this is I get some input from you guys in the last 3 minutes that we have, the new Jaguar system in the cars, which is a forward-facing camera which recognizes speed signs and will slow your car automatically if the speed slows down, if you come into a construction zone, or will speed up if the speed on the roads goes. Good, bad, ugly? What do you think, Banked?
Well, what I'd say is that is a great feature because there are a few luxury cars on the market that have essentially that system, but based on navigation system data. Only I've run into several situations with cars that have that navigation feature where the speed limit in the navigation system doesn't quite match the sign. So this system would simply, like, if they change the signs on us, which, by the way, Portland has done all over the city recently. They've lowered speed limits by 5 or 10 miles an hour inside Portland. It would simply grab the sign and warn you. By the way, Jaguar isn't the only automaker who's introducing this feature. Volvo already has it, I believe, and Ford just recently showed this feature.
Ford isn't coming to the U.S.,
only on their European vehicles for now.
Right.
I highly suspect that it's coming to the U.S. Models in a year or two.
It can only read kilometers or something. They're trying to do the math.
Cindy, will this save you getting some tickets?
Oh, I think it will. I think it definitely will. I know I like it. But the thing what concerns me a little bit is that, again, the technology is taking the driver out of the start of the equation. They got to pay attention. They got to drive what they got. I'm all about the safety features, but, again, drivers cannot get complacent.
Only people who are stupid at the time of purchasing will get this feature activated in their car. You're listening to Test Miles and FM News 101. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and also our website, testmiles.com. We love having you as part of the Car Nation. Thank you to our honored guest this morning, and we'll see you again next week. I'm Nick Miles.
it in neutral and coast in with TestMiles.com.